This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Experience the power of the Presensing Peace method. Among other tools, Kathleen offers Neuroplasticity Meditation to rewire your mind and transform your emotional state. She guides you through various step-by-step processes to cultivate feelings like peace, calm, or gratitude. Learn how to use intention and awareness to change habits and behaviors, creating lasting positive change. It's time to connect with your inner self and embrace the emotional state you wish to embody. Valeria interviews Kathleen Reily. She is the founder of the Presensing Peace method and is a neuroplasticity and meditation expert for men dealing with the chronic stress cycle. With years of experience and a deep understanding of the body and brain's capacity to change and adapt, Kathleen has dedicated her career to developing a method that rewires the habit of stress into peace. Through her unique approach, she combines the principles of positive neuroplasticity, energy psychology, heart-mind coherence, and other techniques to repair the body and create lasting emotional well-being, vitality, and peace. Kathleen's experience lies in harnessing the body-brain's inherent ability to rewire itself at any age, known as neuroplasticity. Through science-backed interventions and compassionate guidance, she empowers men to elevate their peace and contentment, improve longevity, vitality, and build the mind, body, and spirit necessary to lead fulfilling lives. Meet Kathleen at youtube.com/@Presensing and linkedin.com/in/Kathleen-Reily. Here's the interview with Kathleen Reily.
In your own words, who is Kathleen Reily?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. In my own words, Valeria, let's see, who is Kathleen Reily? I'm a human being, a very, very spiritual human being, very deeply connected to the divine, and I am here to bring as much love and laughter and joy to humanity as I can. And my calling is to, bring this, to men, of course, in my work, but I bring it everywhere, in stores and, on planes, anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. You just said so many things there that I need to unpack. Connected to the divine. I love that. So how did you begin that journey, if it is a journey, to be connected to the divine?
Oh,
and what
God,
is the
yeah.
divine to you?
Yeah. Well, let's see. The journey was, I was raised, kind of in a traditional, Episcopalian, go to church, etc.
Yeah.
And I was, when I was born with a cleft lip and palate, which is like a congenital birth defect. And from 6 months until about the age of 24, I was in and out of hospitals. I was having a surgery almost every year. And so there was tons of tons of trauma on the body, on the nervous system. But also, there's all the emotional things around, shame and isolation and so I didn't know that, I thought I was alone. I didn't really connect to the divine through my traditional, early Christian exposure. And so, my experiences growing up were such that I felt I had friends, but I felt very alone and isolated. And it was and it took me a long time to figure out that that was space that was being created to later be filled with this greater love, this divine love. And so I, what makes me so deeply in love and passionate about my work is that it's that separation that causes the anxiety and the stress and the panic. And that's what happened to me in my early 20s. I developed very severe anxiety and panic attacks many times a week. And it was only through that greater love, which I connected to deeply in meditation, that I was able to heal and become, whole again, right? And yeah, so that's kind of the extract. And I found, I found the divine, I found God, whatever term people feel comfortable using in deep meditation. And now, pardon me, I've kind of gone back and dove into Christian mysticism but yeah, that's been my journey.
Wow. Yeah, it's also beautiful. What can I say? And it's interesting to see how healing it is when we find the greater love, as you put it. Also, I mean, it's just so much in alignment, those words too, with the divine. So I guess the question that comes to me, the next question, is about working with specifically with men. Is there a reason? Is there something that you've been guided to do because men they need help at this time more than women, or is there another reason?
It's yeah, so kind of a multifaceted answer. It is a guided path. I had when you have those great realizations that come from beyond. And after I healed through meditation the chronic stress response, and then I started diving into learning about positive neuroplasticity, energy psychology, rewiring the nervous system through frequency, all of this amazing stuff. And I grew up with three older brothers, and they partially inspired me. And it began with them noticing a certain trend, which I also noticed in other men as well. And there was kind of this trend that tends to take place in that midlife range where
Right.
the boy, the boy is lost in a lot of men, and
Mm,
there
mm,
kind of comes this great burden to produce, like your only value, your only worth is
mm,
in what you can produce.
yes.
um
Mm, yeah.
and there comes this sort of almost, um, for lack of a better term, I don't know if I'd say archaic, but there comes this very, um, how would you say? I guess I'll say archaic, yeah, way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
um, men to men, connected
Yeah.
with it. There's this, intense, deep competition. There's this, and not that all of these things are not good, but when you are constantly producing, constantly working, and
Mm,
you've been taught and conditioned not to properly process emotion,
mm, yes.
um,
Yeah.
which is the case for a lot of men.
Right. Right.
And emotion, as we know, is energy in motion. It's life
Right.
force energy.
Yes.
It's just energy,
Mm,
moving.
yes.
And and so by being conditioned, and we know through studies, you could see, where psychologists have put disturbing image in front of the face of a small boy who hasn't been
Mm,
conditioned to suppress,
right.
um, and he'll have a full facial reaction, and then you put that same image in front of a young man in his 20s, early 20s. He's already been conditioned to suppress, and you'll see
Mm,
a instant, reaction, emotional response to the disturbing image, but it is gone within a second or two. So
wow.
many men have been conditioned not to feel,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
is really, really, really not a good thing, because to
Mm,
feel is to live. To feel is
mm,
to live, right? And so when
yeah.
you're conditioned not to feel
Yes.
things, you
Mm,
become numb, and
mm,
and 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 you're not living. And
mm,
so what
yeah.
happens is,
Yeah.
you know
Wow.
there's this shutting down, and there's this deep unhappiness that can happen a lot for men, and then you bring in this aspect of not understanding emotion. And so, there are no
Mm,
tools, and so it's really a serious thing to be addressed. And the highest suicide rates are among men, the highest substance
yeah.
abuse rates are among men. um and
Right.
and and it makes sense. You suddenly, all of this, when you look at how frequency acts in the body, and emotion acts in the body, you trap heavy emotion over and
Mm,
over and over again for decades.
right.
It turns into chronic fear, chronic anxiety. It turns into disease.
Mm,
It's and so the last thing I'll say about that, to answer that question, is that in the inner self development state space, we'll call it emotional health space,
right.
there's so little support for men.
That's true.
And it's not intentional. It's just that women are drawn to this work,
Yeah.
and so we tend to market to other women,
Yeah.
and so I had a really powerful realization. It was a calling from
Mm,
from from beyond,
right.
um, and it spoke to me, and it said, you need to do healing heart work with men.
Mm, yes. Yeah. Mm. So, yes, a billion times again to everything that you said. It just resonates true, yeah, to the core. Yes. It's funny that you say that about feelings, emotions, in living life, because I was talking to somebody, I don't know who, because I talk to so many people about these things. And then that came to me about, wait a minute. So not feeling, not allowing ourselves to feel is actually, that would be the opposite of life. It's death, because death doesn't really exist. In a sense, when we lose the body, it's just life after life. There's just life and life and life.
Right. A new
Just
form.
right. It's not
Right.
really. So death, perhaps death would be not allowing ourselves to feel, suppressing, pushing away. Does it make sense to you in a way? Because I've been thinking about that, reflecting about that these days. Well, that's a
It
little bit too
is
much.
a kind of death.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, let's go there. It is a
Mm,
kind of a when I, in the beginning of the process, right? When I'm, starting off with a group of men and or an individual, what's happening is they're telling me they've lost inspiration, they've lost a connection to life, they've
right.
lost
Yeah.
um,
Mm,
a there's a kind of sadness, a kind of disconnection.
right.
Um, so it's
Mm,
either a really low emotional mood or it's a numbness.
mm,
Um, and so yeah, and so then, when
mm,
we move into the other side of the journey of the process, um, what they're sharing is I literally have so many testimonials. I feel alive again,
yeah.
for the
Yes.
first time.
Yeah. So that, yeah, you see. So feeling alive, yeah. So that's basically letting energies flow and be what they are. It's allowing everything that belongs to life to be. Um, it comes to me as a message all the time that this which what we are experiencing right now, it's freedom itself. So everything is possible. Everything belongs here. So there's no judgment or discrimination. I mean, when there isn't the judgment and the pushing away, the trying to escape or numb, then that's when we feel alive in a sense of um, now we are manifesting or becoming a reflection of life itself. Um, that's just it's
Yeah,
everything. It's not just the one thing what the mind, I know, the so-called ego wants it to be.
yeah,
Ah,
right,
oh,
right, and
Kathleen.
the
Oh yeah.
the yeah.
No,
Uh-huh.
yes, please. Yes, yeah,
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead. I was just gonna. The
yeah.
last thing I would say on that piece is that the and I apologize.
No,
I
yes,
had
no.
a sore throat, so I have
Mm,
kind of a tickle in my throat. But anyway,
right.
um, the ego would have us in, kind of that asleep state, right? The
Yeah.
ego would have us never experiencing a crisis because
Yeah.
if
Mm,
we are, you know, a little like if we're like, somewhat okay, but not too unhappy, not too happy, somewhere in
mm,
there where we're
yeah.
going through the motions and we're
Right.
staying in that comfort zone of what's
Right.
predictable,
Yeah.
that's where no growth happens.
Yes.
You sit there, no growth occurs. And so
Yes.
that's like, where the soul goes to sleep. The soul really goes to
Mm,
sleep in that monotony. And
mm.
and then it
Interesting.
takes, for most of us, it takes a crisis to wake up. And
Right. Right.
and then at least in the crisis one can feel again.
Wow. Yes, that also resonates. Although the idea of the soul, it's still something new to me. Or maybe not new, but because my main um, let's say, interest or focus is the freedom, the spirit, just seeing everything as perfection. Everything is just perfect. It's God everywhere. So I can't really try to separate anything from anything, because everything is interconnected. There's just one that appears as the many. So that's where for some reason, that's what is in here, it's interested in. But the idea of the soul just came up to me recently. And not just recently, I have heard of that for so long, the concept of the soul, for so many years. But just now, for some reason, I have so many healers and spiritual people around me. They started mentioning that. I feel like you need to be more in touch with your soul. And then that it came as a surprise in a way, because I thought, but I'm already in touch with the soul, because the spirit, it's part of the spirit anyway, it's part of God. So anyway, so for some reason, it's been like a calling for me to understand more what the soul is. And because you mentioned, how would you describe that? What is the purpose of the soul in this human physical plane?
Yeah. Well, all I can do is share with you my own understanding, my own perception. But for me, so I see, at the kind of basic level, there's the physical body, right?
Yeah.
And in the physical body is the heart and the brain and all the other organs. And the physical body is meant to be, this is my own perception, is meant to be the vessel by which the soul evolves and becomes closer and closer to oneness, wholeness, God. And the soul is the super consciousness, the life force that gives the body life. And the soul is, for me, because the soul is higher to God than the physical body. The soul is, God manifest in the body. And then, you have, other, concepts around the oversoul, how like, because all souls are like, droplets, from the source. Right. And so, above each soul is an even greater version of the self that's even more unified with the divine. And so basically, but taking it back to something like, really rudimentary in terms of self-development, when you are, I see Earth as, oh my gosh, I read this amazing quote this morning from David Hawkins. Earth is basically, it's perfect because it's full of good and bad choices.
Yes.
Or however you want to label it. Some people don't like good bad dichotomy, but it's full of you can choose between goodness and evil every day. And so it's absolutely perfect it's a perfect place for a soul to come and develop and grow, because with every goodness that you choose, you unify more with the divine. And every time, so much of my work is really centered in the heart. And every time you connect to your heart and you open your heart and you allow yourself to feel elevated emotions, which then allow you to dissolve, right, those lower emotions. Because here's an important piece, is that all low emotions, negative emotions, whatever you want to call them, dissolve eventually. They all run out. They're not infinite. And all elevated emotions are infinite. It just gets more and more. Love, gratitude, joy, it just expands. And so if you can tap into the heart through certain types of meditation, activate it, expand it, bring it life with your awareness and your attention and your energy, and then choose, through your frontal cortex, through the gift of being a human being, you could choose with your intention um, to not feed lower emotions. You welcome them, you receive them, you don't resist them, but then you bring them into the light of love, and they can't stand there, so then they dissolve, and you keep choosing the higher self, and that's the evolution, that's of the soul, and then so that's what I see, and I see the soul. The evolution of the soul starts with the heart, and so yeah.
Yeah, it also, as you speak, it really it resonates. I'm kind of energetically connecting with the words and the sound of your voice, and it's really it resonates true. So the physical, actually, we are here in the physical body because of the soul, right? Basically, that's what I understood from you clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Okay.
we know, yeah.
Yeah. So every soul has a purpose, Kathleen, and that is to express unity in this plane. Is that what we are all trying to do here by returning to Earth?
Yeah, that's how I see it, and we all
Yeah.
have our own individual lessons and things to clear, but and to learn. But yeah, it is ultimately to grow closer to the divine.
Mm. Wow, it sounds like a wonderful experiment, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Of the
I know,
divine, a
right?
play of the divine. Yes, right. An
Yeah, it is
experiment,
a
a
play.
play.
It's exactly a play.
Yeah, why
And
not?
what's wild? What's wild, Valeria, is that
Yeah.
like as you grow in your spiritual practices, in your meditation practices, um, as you heal and overcome life in that survival mode, and you grow closer and closer
Mm, mm,
to that love,
mm.
um, you start to see how
Mm.
you have moments where you feel like you're walking through a film set.
Yeah,
It
that's
really
true.
feels very surreal sometimes, and then you
Yes.
realize, oh my God,
Mm,
this place was set up so that I could manage myself and
mm,
choose to be a better version. Anyway,
yes. Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. And that's why a lot of people say, the soul is beautiful. You have a beautiful soul. And I hear like this amazing, it relates to beauty a lot for some reason. Love, beauty. That those energies kind of come up for me a lot when I think about the soul, those energies. So unity, of course, yeah, kind of was playing together, innocence that comes to the vision too of that. So that
yeah,
sounds amazing. For some reason, I have been very much interested in freedom, which it's almost like a kid that has been playing for a while, and then I'm tired now. I
yeah,
just want to go home, and then it feels that way.
yeah.
It's kind of funny, but it does. I just want to go home. That's okay. I don't want to play this anymore. Um, I don't know what
Yeah,
that
yeah,
means, but yeah. So yes, and then I've learned through training, of course, in different traditions of spiritual traditions. I've been trained through meditation and reflection, contemplation, to kind of connect directly with the source, as people say, or pure consciousness.
yeah,
So now I know that everything is a play. So I'm not just, well, I can still play, but I know that I'm free. But I know that I can go home at any moment
yeah,
that
yeah.
I wish to.
Amen. Yeah,
So,
very
and that,
true.
I don't know what that means, but it feels, I mean, of course, I have a very clear understanding now as a knowledge base and also experiential, because I do a lot of meditation on it. But It's just amazing,
Yeah.
you know, amazing to be here. Thank you again for saying yes to this conversation. So I want to go back to your work.
Yeah.
And with so the topic is, I mean, we've been talking already about what you do, but I love the presensing for men, a method for peace. So talk to me a bit more about that, because I was reading here about you. It seems like you combine principles of positive neuroplasticity, energy, psychology, heart, mind, coherence, and other methods, meditation too. So, but what is the first, let's say, do you present all these methods in a way at once to the client, or how does it work when they come to you for help?
Yeah. Yeah. So, so I have pulled together. So let's see. I started the company about 8 years ago,
Mm,
and I pulled together, and it's life is always an evolution, so the
yes,
program is always unfolding and
right,
getting better and better. But
right.
I have, through all of my trainings and all of my insights in my own personal meditation work, um, I've created this baseline 8-week intensive program, Survival to Creation, and um, it is 3 meditations a day for 8 weeks, and
Mm,
it's very, very rooted in the sides of neuroplasticity, sides of positive, psychology and
right,
meditation.
yeah,
And there's tons of amazing, scientific research on the heart, and
yeah,
and its influence on decision making and the brain, and its influence on the body's longevity and overall health and the nervous system. Um, so I have pulled all of this together and created this 8-week process, and the first month is about re-educating the nervous system on different emotion, right? So
yeah,
if you are a gentleman who's been, living 10 or 20 years in the chronic uh, fight or flight or overwhelm or, fatigue, chronic negative thinking, feeling state, then he has, unconsciously, really, because that habit gets so deeply ingrained
yeah,
to the point where it becomes, unconscious.
right,
And so what has happened is he has actually entrained his nervous system, and the nervous system can be thought of as a musical instrument that gets tuned. And
yeah, mm,
he has unknowingly trained his nervous system, tuned it to the frequency of fear.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when that happens, and this is a very addictive emotion for the body.
mm,
And I look at emotions, I
right,
look at, you've got the fear spectrum of emotions, and then you've got the love spectrum of emotions.
mm,
So, all negative emotions activate the stress response, whether you're angry,
mm,
worried,
yeah,
anxious, whatever it is,
okay,
resentful, and then, joy, love, peace, gratitude, exuberance, all of the wonderful elevated emotions
yeah,
come from love. And so he has to unlearn that, and
right,
and actually re-educate his nervous system to higher emotions, higher frequencies, and so those in this program we use that higher love, we use peace, we use
mm,
safety, we
right,
use protection. Um, and just like a small child needs to, every human being, whether small or big, needs to have those basic needs met, and those basic, emotions learned by the nervous system.
mm,
um,
true,
and uh, and so Yeah, and so that's the first month, and then the second month is about unraveling the actual neural circuitry that was set up to support the habit of stress. So then that's about taking whatever stimuli used to activate the stress response. Maybe it's a reoccurring argument at home. Maybe it's a difficult person, he's working with, um, that sets off the stress response. And so the second month is about teaching the brain, um, no, we're not, first of all, what are, the various stimuli, but then no, we're not going to react in stress and fear. We're going to react with these new resources that we learn, which is the love and the peace and the calm.
Yes.
And
Wow.
yeah. And then
Yes.
it literally just takes 6 to 8 weeks. It's a very intense program, though. It's a lot of meditation. But it's intense because, maybe I'm intense. I like to deliver, fast, 180
Yes.
results that,
Yeah.
don't take a lot of time, but you're unraveling sometimes decades of learned behavior. So it takes an intense kind of deep dive.
Right. Yeah. That also resonates, with me. The time to the timing, and so it is the retraining of the nervous system of the brain, and it sounds like reparenting to parenting yourselves. That also comes to mind.
Yeah.
Do you? Yeah, is that what it is?
Well, that's a great point, actually, because uh, no one said it in those exact words. When we're born,
Mm.
we learn um, to rely on everything outside of ourselves
Yeah.
to soothe, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, to feed, to soothe, to stay alive,
Mm.
and that just kind of grows, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it becomes more and more hardwired. And then you're 40 years old or you're 45 years old, and you haven't learned how to bring happiness to yourself, right? You haven't learned
Mm.
how to bring peace to yourself or
Yes.
love to yourself.
Yes.
And really, that's
Mm.
really also plugging into that greater mind, that greater
Mm.
energy. Um,
Yeah.
and so you're very right. You're very right. You're kind of self parenting. You're learning how to not rely on the outer world for your
Mm.
fulfillment and
Yes.
your soothing and your happiness.
Yes, yeah. That's something that I went through. Yeah, this training of reparenting. Maybe that's why I mentioned it too. So
Oh yeah.
you have so there's an app, a course, and then the YouTube channel. Is that correct, Kathleen? Or as of now,
Yeah,
only
so
the YouTube
we
channel?
Yeah, so we offer, I always guide people to my YouTube channel
Yeah.
because you can really start experiencing presensing the different practices. And then in my YouTube channel, you'll see in the descriptions,
Yeah.
on the videos and the channel, there's I also have an online community and course platform as well
Mm.
for presensing courses and community. So,
Yes, that's wonderful to know. I'll have the link here. The YouTube link will be here, clickable on the podcast notes. Um, what is the best way to contact you? Would that be on YouTube, or would you disclose here your email address? Is that what's the best way to?
oh yeah, yeah. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, YouTube, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
My email address, is just admin at KathleenReily.com, KathleenReily.com.
Okay, so that's
But
wonderful to know.
there's like yeah, And there, it's 2024. There's a million ways to contact people. But yeah, you'll find me. You'll find me.
Wonderful. I'll have the YouTube link and the LinkedIn links here. Is that okay too to post them?
Awesome. Oh
Okay,
yeah,
so
that'd be great. Yeah,
I'll
sounds
have
good.
both of them. Then make a note. LinkedIn, YouTube will be on the podcast notes. So we're almost at the end. Let me see. If I had another. Oh yes, before we end the conversation for today, is there anything else that you left unsaid? Anything else that's a calling to be here?
Let's see. Yeah, you are the creator of your own life. You have immense agency, and despite the chaos around you, you have the capacity to rise above it.
Wow. I love that as a message, as a reminder, right, to all of us, in pursuit of
Yeah,
peace, of happiness, peace, joy, and all these
yeah.
beautiful feelings that we can have on Earth. And with that in mind, my final question to you is exactly about around the concept of peace, because this is part of your program, the name there. So Presensing for Men, a method for peace. When I saw that, the word peace kind of caught my attention. It called my heart's attention. So what is like to live a peaceful life in the human body?
Yeah. It is. Now, you're always learning lessons.
Right.
Let's be clear about that. There are always
Yeah.
lessons coming, and that's good because we
Yeah.
want to grow.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
generally, if you think about each human being has their own baseline of happiness. And when you raise out of fear and into peace, that becomes your new baseline of happiness that you always return to no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it feels like a maybe it's more like being porous, when things come up, they wash through you.
Yeah.
Sometimes bigger things arise and you have to pause and really go within. Um, but generally speaking, the quote, the things that were small and created, big catastrophe in your mind's eye and your perception, now in a state of peace, they're very small things. They just
Mm.
kind of
Mm.
happen, and they either take care of themselves on their own, or you easily take care of them. But you're very content. You're very pleased. You're very content and present, um, and more like water, I suppose, right?
Mm. Yes. 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 I love that. The metaphor. Water for sure. But something that comes to mind too, as you say that about peace, it feels to me like it's a matter of attention too. So always redirecting the
Mm.
attention. So, like you said, peace becomes this almost like a landmark, a place, a home, a kind of home that we know how
Yeah,
to go back to it, and then we know how to direct the attention to it every time when something chaotic is happening, something that doesn't feel good. Um, yes,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's part of the growth process, isn't it, Kathleen? Knowing that
yeah.
we are growing toward um, refining our GPS back home, so it
Hmm.
becomes clear and
Yeah,
clear,
yeah,
right, and
and
quicker. Yes.
yeah, and it's important to emphasize that you're not always cultivating it. You do get to a point where it becomes innate.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's important to know that that does happen.
Mm. What's not to love about all that? Thank you so much again for your presence in our reality, for the beautiful work that you're doing, for being you, for saying yes, to be guided to your purpose, to this beautiful purpose that you're realizing on this planet. Thank you again for your presence.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all of your amazing work and your contributions and being you.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I
It's
have
been a
my hands
joy.
together. You can't see me. Um, so before we say goodbye, I want to mention again your YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/at Presensing altogether. I'll have that on the podcast notes, clickable, and also your LinkedIn that I don't have it here, but I'll have on the podcast notes. Thank you so much again, Kathleen, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Kathleen Reily and her work, please visit youtube.com/at Presensing and linkedin.com/in/Kathleen-Reily.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.